Hey, it's PTSD Awareness Month. On a more serious note, joining us this morning with more on this is Dr. Mariam Navi, and President and CEO of Advanced Health Solutions. Also, Dr. Robert McClay is joining us. He is the Research Director for the Department of Mental Health at Naval Medical Center, San Diego. Did I get your last name right?
Navi, as like
close.
Hawaii. Very close.
Okay. Thank you guys so much for being here. First of all, break it down for our viewers at home and tell us exactly what PTSD is.
Okay, I'm going to defer to Dr. McClay since he's our psychiatrist.
Okay,
Sure.
perfect.
So PTSD is a condition that we see after trauma. It's been known since the beginning of history. Other names, shell shock, soldier's heart. A lot of it was defined in military folks, but really it can happen in anyone who experiences a very serious trauma. And so if you experience a trauma and it stays with you, it haunts you, like you're having nightmares, flashbacks, it's starting to change your life where you can't think or talk about things you have to avoid, that you're in a constant state of hyperarousal, stuck in kind of fight or flight mode where you can't calm down, and there's an emotional component to it. People feel emotionally numb. And all of this can be a normal reaction right after trauma, but if it doesn't go away and it continues to impair your life, that's what we call post-traumatic stress disorder. It's a description of a problem.
Now, most people would associate it with war, with veterans. Is that always the case? Is that the only case? Or are there some folks that maybe have traumatic childhood?
Definitely, from all kinds of different traumas. Actually, most of what we know about treating post-traumatic stress disorder, we've learned from civilian trauma, because all kinds of different things, sexual assault, child abuse, even a horrific car accident can lead to PTSD. Now, just because you have a trauma doesn't mean you will get this, but all kinds of different trauma can.
And there are some interesting studies and numbers out there. One that I found to be fascinating is women are twice as more likely to get PTSD over men.
That's right. In the United States, a much larger fraction of women suffer and experience PTSD than men, and they're twice at risk of actually developing PTSD than men, given exposure to a traumatic event.
Wow. So what is PTSD Awareness Month all about?
So PTSD Awareness Month is to let the community know and Americans know that it's not just an occurrence in the military population. We also see it in children, generally due to sexual assault or some type of child abuse, a lot of domestic violence in women, etc. So both military and civilian populations are affected, and of course our veterans as well.
Are there ways out there to overcome PTSD?
Definitely. There are a number of treatments out there. All of these are unfortunately imperfect. You can't guarantee that the first thing that you're going to try when you get into treatment is going to work.
Which could be very deflating, I'd assume.
It can, and the treatments can be very tough, which is where we've been working with Dr. Navaje on trying to develop new treatments that might be easier to tolerate and quicker. But there's a whole variety of options out there, from individual psychotherapy to medications to new biological options to new cutting-edge technologies that are coming out every day, where there really is hope for recovery. The main thing is you need to get into treatment and stay in treatment.
I was just going to bring that up. I'd assume that that's the one thing that you want to get across to everyone, not only during this month, but every day of the year, is there is hope out there to not give up.
Definitely.
Absolutely, and I think it's very critical, and I'd like the audience to know that post-traumatic stress disorder is not just an individual illness or condition. Typically, it's a family issue. So if my husband has it, I'm likely to also be affected. My children are likely to be affected. And so I think it's important that we treat the condition not as an isolated individual illness, but as a family situation that has to be addressed.
At what point does someone pick up the phone and say, I need help?
So if you've been experiencing these sort of symptoms and they have not been going away on their own, and it's been lasting at least a month, that's the point at which we start to call it the disorder and suggest, yeah, you should probably start looking into treatment. We know that if it gets to be about 3 to 6 months and it's not getting better on its own, it's very unlikely to get into better on its own. So at that point, we really do strongly recommend that people get into treatment. Obviously, also, if there's ever a safety issue, if someone starts to have suicidal thoughts, starts to do anything that's dangerous, that's an emergency and we want to see people right away.
And to put things into perspective, PTSD is 10 to 20% of active duty service members and 35 to 40% of veterans. But like you all just mentioned, it's not just veterans, it's not just people who served in our military. Anyone can be affected by
Yeah,
this.
nationally, about 7% of our population in the United States experience PTSD. So, and typically girls and children also are twice as likely to get PTSD than boys.
It can be a very scary time, but thank you guys for being here and raising awareness and informing us in our audience.
Thank you for having us.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.